Ha! Uncolored Trevor! Oh man, I forgot we had that. It feels like, for whatever reason, that the colored avatar has just always been in place. I know it hasn't, and it's kind of a new thing. At least new-ish. But yeah, that always surprises me. But anyways, this is the commentary for Max Payne, Fox's Pander-iffic disaster, or as I like to call it, dang it, why didn't this do better? Well, I'll talk about that shortly. But first, of course, this is dedicated to the memory of James McCaffrey. Rest in peace, McCaffrey. So how did this thing first come to be? Well, my good buddy Blackjack, who just so happens to be a Patreon executive producer, he is a huge fan of the Max Payne series. In fact, he's the one who got me into it in the first place. Wouldn't you know it, the game series turned out to be great. And then he told me about this movie, and, well, I didn't think it was gonna be as great, but wow. He wasn't kidding. He was kind of describing how they changed a lot of it, but he didn't really know why, and that it wasn't great. Now, he says that it's fine, partially I think because he really likes that style of movie, which, you know, to be fair, that's totally fine. But as for me, I don't know, it's sort of like Willy Wonka in the sense where it's an adaptation that changes enough to be a bad adaptation, but it doesn't change enough to be its own thing. But unlike Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the Max Payne movie just straight up isn't good. But I've already stated why that was the case in the video, so I don't think you want me to just talk about that again and again. You want to hear, oh, there it is again. You want to hear about how this all came to be. Well, Blackjack told me that if he was ever going to win the raffle, he'd pick this. Sure enough, his name ended up getting drawn, and he won. So I knew immediately what I'd have to do. What I wasn't aware of what I'd have to do is get new editors. This, I believe, was the first Patreon raffle review after the end of the Billy era. I've already spoken about the end of the Billy era before, but I guess to be a little more clear, or to describe it a little bit better, Billy was kind of getting burnt out from media mementos, kind of like I've honestly been feeling for the last little bit. More on that later when we're announcing some major changes. Nothing to be concerned about, don't you worry. But anyways, he was getting burnt out, and he was kind of feeling like he was ready to move on and pursue other things. And yeah, he's most certainly pursuing other things now. The guy's gonna go work for Disney. That's right, I know someone who's gonna be with Disney. He's not like an animator or a director, though he should be. Give it time. You gotta climb the ladder before you get to the top, you know? So yeah, Billy was ready to leave Media Mementos, and while I was sad to see him go, you know, I, being a friend of his, didn't want him to just stick around and do this thing that he wasn't passionate about anymore. So, yeah, he was gonna go, and I'd have to get a new editing team together. I'd never worked with editors before, so I was pretty nervous, and I wasn't fully sure of what to do and what the expectations were. I'm still not all the way sure. I'm still learning and growing. But hey, I'm trying my best, you know? So yeah, I was just starting to get the feel of the editing team together, and then this one came around, and yeah, I think it was this one. Upon seeing the final product, I realized everything is gonna be okay. Just because Billy is gone doesn't mean that the channel's really gonna change all that much. Although I was wrong, it changed a lot, but as Billy would say, it changed for the better. But I guess this is my version of the Game Grumps Mayor Luigi, where one of the original guys / founders, sort of, technically, depending on how you look at the story, ended up leaving, and then the replacements ended up doing something like this, and yeah, very impressed to this day. Unfortunately, though, when it was released, it didn't do well at all. And I have two theories as to why, and I think both of them are correct. First of all, the title, it doesn't really tell you what this is going to be. And I think that was on my part. I thought it was a clever title, and I think it is, but it needs to be a bit more descriptive. I think if I released it now, I'd call it like Pander-iffic Disaster, the complete history of the Max Payne movie or something like that. In fact, I might even go back to change it at some point. I don't know, maybe it's worth my time, maybe not, I don't know. And I think the other reason this one didn't do very well is it's tied to a video game. Video game content never seems to do well on Media Mementos, whether it's Pikmin, Donkey Kong, Pajama Sam, Danganronpa. It seems like nobody wants to see it. For the very first time, actually, we had a video game video that did well, being the recently released Complete History of Pac-Man World 1. And despite being a video game-based video, and also releasing in the dreaded YouTuber month of January, people seem to like it. It got some positive feedback, it got some good views, and yeah, it makes me want to go and do the others. See, it's difficult with video game content because I'm not like a gamer exactly. I know a fair bit about the history and I know a lot about retro stuff. It's just that I'm not as avid as a gamer as most YouTubers seem to be. So, for example, you could go to your gaming historian, James Rolfe, Peanut Butter Gamer, and you'd get all your gaming fix. But then there's folks like me who, I could talk about Danganronpa all day, or talk about, say, the history of Sonic Heroes or Mechasult or something. But the audience just doesn't really seem to want it. So whenever we try, here's always the cycle that happens. I say no video game content because no one wants to see it. A few months pass, there's an idea that hits me, or back then Billy. There'd be this undeniable itch, we try to suppress it for a while, then we break and say, maybe it's been long enough, and some new folks who want to watch the video game stuff have come to the channel. So we make the video, it bombs, then we say no more video game content ever again. And then the cycle repeats. I remember that especially when we made the Leon Kuwata video. Billy was saying, dude, are you sure this is gonna do well? You know what happened with video game stuff here? And I think he was bringing back memories of, say, Titan Dweevil, which didn't do well at the time, or his Donkey Kong video that surprisingly underperformed. But I was saying, nah, come on, dude, Danganronpa is a cult classic. It's not the biggest thing ever, but it's got a passionate fan base. We gotta give it a try. And you know how that turned out, but with this one, there wasn't as much of that fear because it was based on the movie, not the game. But then it didn't really work anyways, because it's still, again, game adjacent or game related. I don't know, I've still not really been able to figure out why that phenomenon happens. And I'm hoping we're breaking out of it soon, because I've got a lot more ideas. But even so, despite this one not doing well, unlike a lot of failures where I kind of get bummed out, like, oh man, come on, we worked so hard. This one I didn't really get all that bummed out by. Again, even if other people didn't really see it, I more took it as a sign that Media Mementos was going to be okay. And wouldn't you know it, in the coming year plus since, we've only gotten bigger and better. And we're going to keep on doing exactly that. We're not going to do the Fox route and just try to pander to anything that has a slight interest in seeing a picture move on a big screen. I still don't know why they did this. I think I even mentioned it in the video. Why would you adapt something if you just want the name? You have to know that that's not going to work. By this point, there have been things like Dragon Ball Evolution or Baby Blues, and they never work. And I think Hollywood has finally learned its lesson by now, both with Max Payne and then not too long later, The Last Airbender. They can't all be Speed Racer, right? But we don't find this out until the middle of the movie. Hey Blackjack, if you're watching this, thanks for making me watch Max Payne, I'm definitely not scared of what you're gonna have me do next time. Something tells me it's gonna have to do with Silent Hill. For the record, I do like Silent Hill, it's just... well, wow, that's gonna be a tough one. But hey, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Big Max Payne franchise, the one that was gonna be the next big thing, only lasted one movie before it...
I can't imagine what the next Max Payne movies would have been, because they thought they were gonna do a whole series. Maybe they would have listened to some of the notes they got about a bad adaptation job that was done beforehand, and maybe try to make it closer to the source material like the rumors say that Last Airbender Part 2 was going to do. But I don't know, this is Fox. Fox has a habit of kind of doing its own thing for better or worse. Sometimes we get great stuff out of it, and sometimes we get Max Payne. I think we can tell where it was gonna go, right?
And it tried to cater to the Max Payne fans by having...
Also noting that at the time of making this, I don't know if I don't really think I've had any knowledge of, like, the third game or much about it. I knew a lot about the first and the second, of course. No, in fact, there was this one time in preparation for the video, because I tend to give the raffle winners a lot of notice. It depends on how far we are in the schedule and how quickly we're able to churn stuff out, although it's going to be a lot slower in the coming months and years. But we were playing the first Max Payne game back in my apartment, and then for some reason, as soon as we got to a certain point, it just froze and stopped. So then we decided to put the game back in, and I think we just did the whole thing up until that point anyways, and then it froze again. I think it's something to do with the disc I was gifted. It might have been kind of funky, or I don't know, maybe it's the PS2 that I Frankenstein together at a thrift store. It could be that too. Well, I guess that's the end of the video, so what commentary would you like to see in 2 weeks? Comment below and let me know, because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. In case you haven't gathered by now, considering that I say it all the time. Alright, bye!
These beautiful people, why not give it a shot? Thanks for watching, friends. See you guys next time. Everybody metal.